19 suspected gang members and 10 military personnel were killed following the arrest of Mexican drug cartel boss Ovidio Guzman, the son of notorious drug lord El Chapo. 2 airports in the region have reopened, with flights back to Canada scheduled today. Joining me now is Reuters senior correspondent David Graham, who's worked in Mexico for the past decade. David, thanks so much for joining us. Let's start with the latest on the situation on the ground right now.
Things are gradually returning to normal up in Sinaloa, but there's an enhanced military presence, obviously, because they're trying to keep things as under control as possible. The airport is reopening, has reopened, and to the best of our understanding, things are going back to normal. But clearly, the people there are pretty shocked by what's been going on.
Well, what's the latest with Guzman himself?
He is in detention. He is being held in the same maximum security prison west of Mexico City, where his father escaped in 2015. And of course, all the pending question of his extradition is being considered now, and of course will be no doubt subject to much comment in the days ahead.
This high-profile arrest is obviously a win for Mexico and for the U.S., but is it really going to make a difference in terms of drug trafficking in North America?
I think, that will depend on what they do next, because clearly, you get good publicity for capturing someone who is very high profile. But I think if no steps are taken to really dry up the sources of revenue, to go after the structures of these organizations, then I think people will be skeptical about how much can be done to really halt the supply of drugs.
How will what we've seen this week, David, impact how Mexico is seen on the world stage? I mean, we know it's a popular tourist destination, but also geopolitically.
Well, I mean, obviously, while you have the good news of, from the government's perspective, of capturing a high-profile target, you also have the images of the scenes we saw in Culiacan and the violence. And so, I think it will tend to perhaps harden some of the perceptions that Mexico has had to live with, that it is a place where these kind of incidents do occur. So I think, Culiacan, as it is not really a major tourist destination, but it is a big city. And, I think it will, in that sense, just remind people of what Mexico perhaps has been fairly or unfairly famous for in the last few years.
Canada's Prime Minister is going to be where you are right now, David, Mexico City, in 3 days for a summit of North American leaders. So do these events change what the 3 leaders are going to be discussing?
I mean, the Americans have already said that they would like to discuss fentanyl during the talks next week. And this is, of course, a synthetic opioid that's been blamed for a number of deaths, an increasing number of deaths in the US. And I think also in Canada has been, an issue. So I think it will be prominent because of the circumstances of the capture, the arrest.
Security is also going to be discussed, correct?
It will be discussed because it's a permanent topic, because it broaches, not only the issue of drug trafficking, but also the border, and immigration is always a big deal when it comes to Mexico and the US. And so that will definitely be on the agenda when they get down to business next week.
Reuters senior correspondent David Graham, thanks so much for your time and your insight.